culture is a vulture if you let it get too big. Or bad. They eat flesh. Let's do this. Let's start. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Cultural Disruption.
We're excited to have you.
We are excited to have you. We've talked recently about finding a job and, hiring people. Yep. But we want to talk a little bit more about the hiring process as well. And it's not just all about hey, we see your resume. You might be great. Really a big part of hiring someone is actually buy-in, right? If I want to hire someone, I want them to be bought into what it is that we're doing. So how do we do that?
Okay, well, I think the way you do it is, first of all, you have to sell the candidate on the company. And so I want to talk about selling. I was on a family trip.
I was thinking about, what about Bob? I'm sailing.
Sorry. I'm sailing.
I sail. Dr. Marvin. Okay, go ahead.
So I was on a family trip. My mom is from Alabama, and when we were in Alabama, we went to the Hyundai plant. And if you don't know how to say the car Hyundai, it's Sunday, Monday, Hyundai. That's how you say it.
I would say Hyundai.
Hyundai. And we learned how they make cars. But the cool thing is you get this little overview of what the company is, and then you hop on these golf carts and you drive around the production plant in Montgomery. And when I left there, I said to myself two things. One, I need to buy a Hyundai, right? Like, they sold me on how cool it is that they make Hyundais, and I need to buy one. And two, I said, I want to work for Hyundai. It sold me on the experience. As you went around to these different departments, you got to see people play and interact with them. And, they sold me on the company culture, and they sold me on the product.
Yeah. That's cool.
It was really cool.
I didn't get to go do it, but I would love to do that.
You should, if you're in Montgomery, Alabama, go check out the Hyundai plant.
And I think Zappos does something familiar or similar, don't they?
They do. So Zappos is taking culture to a whole new level. They actually have something they call their Zappos Insights team, and it's a group of people, and their whole job is to express the culture of Zappos. And so they do tours just as well. You go in, you get to see the history of the company. They walk you around, show the office, and guess what? When you leave, you want to buy shoes from Zappos, and you want to work at Zappos.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing, right? Experience creates experience. Let that sink in for just a second here.
I like that.
The reason I say that is because the whole idea behind a cultural tour, or a tour just in general of anything that you do, is to get people to understand why you do the things you do, right? Because there's a whole lot of, this is what we do, but they don't understand why, right? Mm-hmm. And we talk a lot about know your why, right? Simon Sinek is great stuff with that. But when people come into your office tour or company tour, whatever that might be, you give them a chance to really be part of what it is that you're doing. And I talked about buy-in. If I can go see the way that Jared interacts with the team, or I get to know the who's who of the environment, right? Or I get to see the cool activities or just the cool office space, whatever that might be, it's giving me reason to say, look, there's nowhere else that I want to work, right? Because you did that when you were at Hyundai and when you went to Zappos. You had the idea of, look, when I leave here, I want to come back. I want to be part of this. I want to have that experience all over again. So the idea basically is to get people to come into your office to see what it is that you're doing. So it's not just about finding someone who has the resume. Do they make the cultural fit, right? Do they want to be part of what it is that you do?
Okay, so here's an example. If you need an idea of how to do this, and you work in human resources or leadership, or you do hiring, go interview somewhere. Okay, you don't have to accept it, but go interview at some company, and when you go in to do that face-to-face interview, just look at it from the candidate experience. What are the questions you want answered? You want to know, what is the product? What is it like to work here? What's a day in the life? Who are the key players? Who am I going to be reporting to? You want to have in-depth conversations. But how cool would it be if you went on this cultural tour and you could then turn that information around and answer 90 to 95% of the questions that candidate has about your company? Yeah. Now you're getting ahead of the curve. You're selling the candidate on the experience, and they really want to be part of it.
If I work for a company called Bottle Lids Incorporated, right? I'm not going to have a whole bunch of people knocking down my door, but if they can come in and see my office space or see how we are, then that makes an entirely different experience for someone. You might be that it company to work with. Yeah. And you can create that just by bringing people in, just giving them the experience.
And now this is not just something, it's not just fluff. and it's not just for the candidate. The other thing you want to do during this cultural tour is have them meet with the hiring manager. Have them meet with a peer and actually do a technical interview. Like, show them around the company, show them the product in action, and then end with sitting down and actually having those technical questions that you have prepared. You need to make sure that the candidate is also a good fit for you and for your culture, and you can only do that by asking those questions. So be prepared to sit down and end that with a traditional interview.
Yeah, and I think also at the same time, I feel like you might get more honesty because they feel now more comfortable with what it is that you do. And you as a person, right? Because you get the opportunity, or the hiring manager, whoever it might be, they get the opportunity to meet them. It creates that relationship just off the bat.
Yeah, and we've talked about prepping candidates to come in with answers and things that you need. Well, if you've prepped them for what they're going to experience, then they come in and experience it firsthand during a cultural tour, and then you have those conversations, that candidate's going to be really positioned to tell you what they can do to make a difference. And if they can't sell you on what they can do, then that's not the candidate for the job.
Yeah. Get them out of there.
That's right. And so one of the other things we like to do at the very end is to leave candidates with a tangible item.
Yeah, we give them a cultural handbook, right? That explains the company culture. And a lot of this can actually be testimonials from people who work there. This is why I love working where I do, right? So they can see not only the experience in person, but also they have something to take away and refer back to that. So if they have company questions, hey, what about, what do you guys do for this activity, or what whatever it might be, they have something that they can refer back to. And it's also, again, it's just it's that buy-in, right? They can see it's an opportunity for us to express ourselves as a company and let them know who we are, not only through the visit, but also through, hey, this is something you can take away and see who we are.
It's also a good time to answer those questions they have. They have questions about benefits and 401k, and so give that to them in a cultural handbook. Explain what those benefits are. And as you mentioned, having other people share their opinion of the culture, I think is huge, because as recruiters, we're the ones that are selling that to the candidate and selling the culture to them. But if they can hear from the voice of their peers and just line level employees, then they're really going to be able to get a full picture from other people.
Yeah, I might be biased and be like, I just got to fill this position. It's great! You're going to love it! Oh my gosh, I want to kill myself every day. Right? Like, we don't want them to have that kind of experience. So, it is good it's good to have different perspectives.
And the best cultural handbooks that we've seen has been with the Zappos Insights team. So if you're ever in Las Vegas, sign up to take a tour. At the very end, they have these beautifully printed hard copy cultural handbooks that you can actually take with you, and it's opinions from everybody within the company what they think about it. Yeah. But if you do this cultural tour and you do it right, when the candidate is done, once again they will say, I have to work here. Yep. There's no other place I want to be. I'm going to give everything I can to be part of this team, which is going to help you onboard them quicker, retain them longer, and negotiate less.
That word spreads, right? When they have that great experience, it also is great. It's a great recruiting tool. Yeah. It's a great thing. I went and saw roller derby this Saturday. I'm just going to tell everybody I went and saw roller derby, and I want to go back so bad. It was great. It was a great experience. But I will spread the word, and that's because of the experience that I had.
That's right. Create the experience. Experience creates experience.
Experience creates experience. Copyright. Don't use that. You can use it.
Copyright, Blake Beard.
Trademark. Stamped it. Double stamped it. Have fun, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe.